Nadia, I want to thank you for your willingness to share your story with us today. We know that storytelling is a really great way to shift narratives and to build empathy. And so I just have a couple questions for you. First, starting with what life was like before you left home.
Before I left home, thank you so much for this opportunity, Christine, and to Matt. And so my life before I left my country and my home was, I would say, normal life. As I was working, I was a mom. I had 3 children back then, and I was pursuing my education, and it was a kind of normal life back in Afghanistan, with the hope that we are, or I am, as an individual, contributing to the rebuilding of Afghanistan, and just living with my family, having my other families, my relatives. I could. Just as a normal life, I could work, I could study, and living with my family. That was all the life I had, but I also had I had access to those opportunities where, as an individual, I could work and I could just build my life, and that was the type of life I had back home. But to be more specific about my background, I came back to Afghanistan in 2001, and this is the second time I'm becoming a refugee, or an immigrant, actually. First time was during the Civil War, when my family were forced to leave Afghanistan, but we came back in 2001 after the U.S. entered Afghanistan and the U.S. military mission started in Afghanistan. And then I started to working as I spoke the language, English, and I got the opportunity to work for nonprofit organization. And then I served in the banking industry for 12 years. That's where I got the opportunity to support the U.S. military in Afghanistan by providing the banking services for them, and like opening bank accounts and setting up ATM machines and taking care of their daily banking transactions. And then in the meantime, I also served in the banking sector. My last job was with one of the Afghanistan National Bank. And I was in the executive role as the deputy CEO for that bank. And then in 2017, I moved to an international humanitarian organization called DRC, Danish Refugee Council. I worked with them for 4 years as the chief risk and compliance officer for 4 years, but that was supported by the U.S. So the grant, we had a grant funded by the a program funded by the U.S. Department of State. So due to that work relation, I got engaged, and I got to work with the U.S. government in Afghanistan.
Okay. So given your connection there with family and working there and all of that, what happened that made you need to leave?
So this all happened due to my work relation. As I was involved in those roles, supporting the U.S. mission in Afghanistan through my role individually. And it also happened that other members in my family, my brothers, they also worked for the U.S. Embassy or U.S. military. So with that entire connection, me and my family were not safe there anymore after the fall of Kabul, which was I would say that's a darkest day in the history of Afghanistan, the incident of 15th of August, the fall of Kabul, as I was there, a witness, seeing what happened. And it's a long journey and a long story, but to make it short, it was a disaster of a nation, I would say, in one sentence. With that, it was not safe for me, for my family to live there and stay there, because the Taliban were just searching for people who had any type of connection with the U.S. military or U.S. Supported agencies or U.S. agencies, actually, in Afghanistan. And with that, to my specific case, I was also not feeling safe. Me and my family members were unsafe, and we were forced to find another way to move out of that situation. And then finally, we were lucky. We were, at that point of time, I would feel that we were among those thousands who were seeking safety elsewhere. The entire country was unsafe. I had no place to move from one city to another city. I had to find a new destination where I could bring my kids, where I could take my kids to safety. Honestly, for that survival, we got on a flight earlier, 2 days after the fall of Kabul. So for 2 days, I was hiding. And that very day when the Kabul fell, it was a disaster. It was horrible, I would say. Mm-hmm. And the way we had to escape, it was escaping actually for survival. And getting on a military plane, 5 flights back and forth, being in 4 different countries. It is a 20 days journey, 20 days entire journey we made into 4 countries and 5 flights, and finally ended up here in Indiana.
Wow. That sounds incredibly difficult, and I'm sure it brought a lot of fear and all of those experiences. So when you think about when you came to the United States, what would you say was the most difficult thing about that transition?
About the transition, the most difficult thing was, for me personally, it was not much of a culture shock, but it was most of the uncertainty of the entire situation, because it was an emergency evacuation, leaving your whole life behind. It's not an easy transition, honestly. For me, I still remember, and I'm still recovering, thinking about the last moment the last time I looked at my door and leaving my house forever with the idea that I would never be able to go back to my home and open that door. That's a very hard feeling, and it's not easy to process. But with all that kind of trauma, people come or go or make this transition is not easy, and especially with the uncertainty that what will happen next. But also in the journey, on the way, as you make your transition and come through this journey, seeing your kids not getting enough food, or having on different flights. So there's a lot of obstacles on that pathway to make your transition, leave your everything, your home, your life, your loved ones behind. But then also coming to a new land. There is a culture shock, maybe not for me, because I got the opportunity to work with very diverse community back home, but for a lot of people, it is a big culture shock. It was really hard, and especially being a mother, it makes it even worse. Yeah.
When you think about, the struggle of one just trying to find employment basic needs, but then also processing through that trauma of that experience, what helped you get through that?
For me, I would say the people, the community. Making this journey and this transition and coming to a new environment was not easy, but there were people who made it possible, and we felt belonging. And it's as we all say, Hoosiers hospitality. That's true. I was welcomed. My family was welcomed, and I can proudly say that on the very first days, even at Camp Atterbury. So I came through Camp Atterbury. I spent 3 months there, and there I could see people just rushing and coming and trying to help, and volunteers from different sectors, from different organizations and groups and communities, churches, mosques, and it's amazing. It was amazing. It was unbelievable to see the amount of support people are willing to provide and to the newcomers. That was out of expectation, and it was a big surprise for us. But honestly, they made it possible for me and for my family personally to get adjusted here, and that during that resettlement phase, it helped us a lot to process. And we finally can call Indiana our second home. And yeah, with that process, I've seen a lot of volunteers came in. I think people in communities play a significant role in this entire transition for anybody. But yes, we were welcomed in their city, in their state, in their country, in their homes even. I could see people at our doorstep coming with food or with, clothing or any household item and what we need actually, just coming in. That kind of kind gesture people showed, that's amazing. That's incredible.
We hear a lot of people who are newcomers, that sense of wanting community and belonging helps in that process of transition. And so when you consider your journey and the time that you have been here, what would you say you're most proud of?
I'm most proud of for my sorry, I didn't get to your question. Sorry, can you repeat?
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just as you think about just your journey and then the time since you have been in Indiana as your second home, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of, for myself, it is, for me and for my family, our resilience. That's what I'm proud of, because I've seen for adults, it might be easier, but for children, it's not easy. But I see my kids being back to school and just getting used to this new life here and the new life here, and they've made friends and they're getting well along with others. And but also I would say that relationship that we built, right? The relationship with people, be it your friends or people from other communities, they come and they share a meal with you, for example. So I think that's something for me. I cannot call anything as being proud for a solid reason. I don't know how to express that, but I think just, building this resilience that I have felt in my family and in myself, that has been most significant for us. But also on the top of that, I think the achievements that we have had so far, right? I went back to school. I completed my education. I got a job at a good place. Like, I worked for the city of Indianapolis for 3 years. So that was a great opportunity for me as I was making transition into the building a new life here for me and for my family. So what I am most proud of is the establishing the African American Community Center. This is a nonprofit community organization that I have been, along with the help of other friends and my community members, we established this organization, African American Community Center. That's a community-based organization for the Afghan community, as there were no any other Afghan community organizations in the past year in Indiana, because we did not have a large population here. But just after the 2021, a big inflow of the Afghan refugees arrived here, and they chose Indiana as their second home, and they resettled here because, for my personal experience, I had never heard about Indiana. So I didn't know Indiana exists here or where. But to my surprise, it's a good state, and this is my permanent home now. I bought a house and I'm fully resettled here with my family. But and anybody from my community who make their journey to the U.S., if they ask me for a recommendation, I would always recommend Indiana more than any other place. But yes, we really needed a community organization and a formal representation for the community. Not only that, but also to help them and support them with services and to address their needs, because the community is growing and it's quite spread out. We have our community resettled here in central Indiana, in Muncie and Bloomington, few families in Fort Wayne, Lafayette. So these are the areas that they are resettled. And so with that, there was a much need of the community. And since then, we have been quite actively involved and engaged with the Afghan community. And now our community has grown to close to 2,000 people here in Indiana. So that's quite a large community now. And then more families are coming nowadays through the SIV case holders, who are the Afghan allies and interpreters. They are granted special immigrant visas, which is approved by the Congress. So they're still allowed to travel. But then they need help here because there's no federal funding for them anymore. That's how we have the private sponsorship to support them through the communities and community funding, or if it's not even funding, but with just the entire resettlement phase with housing, public benefits, education, health, these needs. But yeah, so I'm very much proud of establishing Afghan American Community Center. And we have, since last 3 years, we founded this organization back in October 2022. And since then, we have been quite actively engaged and with the community, but also partnered with other service providers, organizations, and partners that are helping the refugees. And we also have annual culture festival, which is happening on September 6th, and we have been hosting this event for the past 3 years. Last year, we had more than 450 people turn out, so it was a huge event. And this year, too, we are hosting it at the University of Indianapolis.
Yeah, I definitely would say that's something to be proud of.
Yes, absolutely. But through our organization, we have had, and we have, for example, one of the initiatives we have right now ongoing is the English classes. It's an English and culture program for them. So basically, this is for that group of population we have who are struggling with learning English and learning English from an English speaker. So we have come up with a tailored program where we have brought them Afghan teachers who are literate and who are speaking their own native language, but they're English teachers. And at the same time, we are also planning to start driving course for those women. Mostly our students are women. Women have been, unfortunately, a very deprived group of our population back home, and a lot of them did not have access to opportunities or to their rights. But here we are helping them to access those opportunities and creating a kind of platform for them where they can build their lives, basically, learn about new opportunities, going back to school and learning the languages and learning driving, for example, and become independent so they can run their family, and while their husbands are at work. And then if the women are at home and they don't feel isolated, so they have something to do, they go out, they take their kids to their school, or they go for shopping and to their doctor's appointments. So this is the goal. This is in our vision, to empower women.
So when you think through, you've had your own personal journey and you've interacted with a number of people who have also went through that refugee journey. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions in the public about refugees?
I think the biggest misconception is about their legal status, because everybody is seen as undocumented, which is not true, because in every community you would see there are different legal pathways where refugees or immigrants make it to a country. And if we talk about the United States, it's U.S. Immigration laws, per the immigration law, and there are so many legal pathways for the refugees depending on the context of that community or country or nationalities. For example, I don't know about the other communities, but as far as the Afghan community is concerned, and I know that majority of us have come through legal pathways. And as they come here, they come on a temporary status. It's not TPS. It could be those who came back in 2021 came on a humanitarian parole visa, but then they were eligible to apply for asylum. And most of them are granted asylums. But a lot of them after that ultimately came through, for example, SIV visas or refugee visas. So, yeah, this is the biggest misconception, because everybody is seen same, undocumented. And that's a big fear among people in communities, because they don't feel safe, because although they carry, even for me personally, I have my green card, but when I walk or go out and then say, okay, I have to be very careful because I might be seen as undocumented refugee here or undocumented immigrant here.
So when we share this story, what do you hope is like an action item that someone might hear after they hear your journey?
So first of all, one of the other misconceptions I would also say would be about a lot of times refugees or immigrants are seen as a burden on the economy, on the society, on everything, on every system. But I would say that from my personal journey and personal story that I came here, but I'm thriving now because I've given back so much, I would say, through my work, through my education, and through stepping up and being a community leader, helping so many families to learn the language and do the jobs. And we also do help people in our community with finding jobs and going to different career development programs to help them find jobs. So they're contributing a lot to the workforce development even. And this is also one of the biggest conceptions that refugees and immigrants are being seen as a burden. A lot of times. For the action points or action items, I would say I think we need more awareness. We need more education. We need support from communities and nonprofit organizations and even government. And I think we have to have this dialogue carried on because a lot of time people do not know like what is the background of communities and this particular community and why they're here. So there's a lot of questions in their minds, but I think we need to have more of education and awareness sessions on the refugees and immigrants. A lot of people don't know who are refugees. They cannot even differentiate between immigrants and refugees, documented and undocumented, right? And how they have come. A lot of times they don't know about the context of a particular group or community or family or even an individual. So there's a lot of education needed around that. To have, even on the immigration laws of this country. And at the same time, I think I would feel this would be the only way to tackle this issue right now. Just to come up on one table and just have a fair discussion and fair conversation about this dialogue, I think.
When you think of new immigrants coming to the U.S., which I know you are working with new refugees who are entering, what is one piece of advice that you would give them?
For the refugees and immigrants, it's a very difficult question. For them, I would say, if they're eligible, of course, they will be eligible, so they will come in, and if they're coming and I would say that they should learn the language first. This is a priority because language is access to everything. So, and just, I would say, it's a very difficult question, actually. I'm just thinking for them because the context is different now. But I think I would say, learn more about the laws here, right? And do not violate anything, violate any law, and just follow the rules and build your life, become self-sufficient and independent, and work hard and as you make your transition, but also be a part of the community, right? That plays a very significant role because you have to understand the culture here, get as much culture training and culture orientation as possible. And also at the same time, just have your legal status and don't do anything wrong and just keep your legal status. And if you're not eligible, then of course that's a different question. Then yes, if you're legal here, I think you just have to follow the laws and rules here of this country, because at the end of the day, we have to respect the laws and rules here, and just be a good citizen, because that's a pathway to become a good citizen, right? Yeah.
Great, Najia. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and openness. This is great.